Yo, it's your friendly neighborhood alien / student researcher, KagakuEllie. I get a lot of questions from people, both here and in real life, about what student research is actually like. So I've gathered up the top 50 most common questions I get, and I'll be answering them all right here, right now. Though, let me grab my tea first. It's pretty chilly this holiday season. Okay, that's better. All right, let's get started. How do you usually explain your research to strangers? The best way I've come up with so far is I study the possibility of alien life with computers. What's your default response when someone asks, "So what do you do?" I know it's impossible to avoid the "so, aliens?" comments, so I just roll with it and say I'm an astrobiologist. It makes a good conversation starter, and I may or may not have put up for conversation when hailing an Uber just to have an excuse to talk about my research. It's a good psychom exercise. What's one word that sums up your project on a bad day? Probably nerdy. In all seriousness, I have to use at least 3. Usually computers doing chemistry. What's the first thing you do when something doesn't work? Find the nearest vending machine, snag a Celsius, some dry erase markers from the student center, and hash it out on a board. It's pretty much true for all of us. What's the biggest expectation versus reality gap? People think you have to know everything about everything. This is not true, and is why a lot of undergrads are afraid to join research in the first place. Ever since my TA drilled this concept into my head, it's been a lot more fun in the lab and I can bring my authentic self to work. What part of research feels nothing like class? You have to be your own teacher, especially in interdisciplinary work. Textbooks will become your friend. What part feels suspiciously like a group project? Waiting for collaborators to email you in a timely manner. Spoiler alert, they don't. What did you think you'd be amazing at, but weren't? I thought manual debugging would be easy. I was very wrong. Thank God Google Colab has Gemini AI built in. That's like trying to fish individual marshmallows out of a jumbo box of Lucky Charms, one by one, with tweezers. What did you think would be hard, but wasn't? The reading. Once I found ways to make it interesting, it wasn't so bad. I'll listen to recordings of the ISS or the space shuttle while curled up in a study nook and pretend I'm floating up there. Bring your silly side to science. It makes the grunt work a lot more bearable. What's the most fake productive thing you do? Probably typing random words into a Google Doc. Bonus points if a campus tour is walking by and you want to look like you know what you're doing. It happens to all of us. How much of research is staring at something silently? 80% of the time is spent staring, but it's almost never quiet. Just because you don't hear anything on the outside doesn't mean it doesn't get loud inside your head. That said, if you're staring off into nowhere, your brain is practically on a BSOD. So please, remember to give your brain some peace and quiet every now and then. What task do you procrastinate the hardest? Making the final poster. Enough said. Once my abstract got accepted to the conference I applied to, I wanted to sleep for 6 months. So I ended up putting the entire poster together in 2 days. Don't do that. Please make sure you do things like that in advance. What's your personal signal that it's time to stop for the day? When I stumble on the same problem over and over. I'm usually hungry and touching grass seems to help. What's the longest you've ever worked on a single problem? 8 hours. I was using a tool called ArcGIS doing something called zonal analysis. It's basically like taking a cookie cutter to a piece of data so you only look at the area you actually want to look at. ArcGIS kept crashing, so I spent over 8 hours in the computer lab manually writing values for 22 years of data. Whew, brutal. What's your research soundtrack? Or complete lack of one? I'm an Enka junkie. While I was in my minor, while I was in my minor, which is Japanese, I used to listen to it a lot and the habit stuck. I'm really into Kokoro Umetani's Banetsu Saisen Hitori right now. It's really, really catchy. What time of day are you most productive? Dawn and dusk, as they're when I have minimal interactions with people. That said, boundaries are important. For example, I never work past 10 p.m. What's the weirdest place you've done research work? The literal hospital. I have idiopathic epilepsy, so while I had to stay on the monitoring unit, I spent most of that time browsing Elsevier. Since they have a camera in those rooms to fill seizures, the researcher doing research got researched. What does your note system look like? Does it work? Kanji, kanji, kanji. I typically write my notes in Japanese to fit more information on a single page. It works, but I do have to translate them for my instructors. That being said, I don't really mind. What's one habit research forced you to develop? Reading outside the lines. Since I don't have formal training in the discipline yet, I was reading medicine articles to learn biochemistry. Out of all the things I could have landed on, I ended up on an article about genetically modified tomatoes. Yeah. What's the most frustrating failure you've had? Having to start from scratch on my methodology because I was looking at the wrong set of principles to begin with. Happens to everybody. What failed so badly it became funny? I tried to run a CSV file through the code I wrote, and it crashed so many times that I was laughing like a maniac and switched to Excel. Whew. What broke right before a deadline? ArcGIS. It crashed right before the end of my 8-week study allotment, and I ended up in that 8-hour writing session I mentioned earlier. Thankfully, my advisor was a good sport about it, and I still got an A. What's your go-to troubleshooting strategy? Try saying that 5 times fast. Anyway, I'd say ye old reboot. As the saying goes, try restarting times 3 before calling IT. Because just like lawyers and doctors, you want the IT people on your good side. What mistake would you absolutely warn others about? Mind which coding language you use. I spent far too long using MATLAB when Python packages were faster and solved my problem in days rather than weeks. Just because it's what the class taught you to use does not mean necessarily that it's the right tool for the job you're doing. What is your "this is fine" coping mechanism? Meditation. We have a dedicated space for it on our campus in the Student Center, and if your school has similar resources, I highly suggest looking into them. Please, 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 please prioritize your mental health. A healthy researcher is a happy researcher. What's something your mentor does that helps more than they realize? Letting me figure out why I was wrong. I'm the type who likes writing things out on a board and cracking the code manually. If I can see why I'm wrong, it sticks and I don't do it again. What's something you were scared to ask at first? I was the most scared when I was asking if I could do research under a professor in the first place. It's not very easy when you reach the stage where memorizing the basic formulas won't cut it anymore. Best advice I could give is to know your general interests and pay attention to when professors introduce themselves on the first day of class. If you find a professor whose interests line up with yours, or even something close, get to know them. Go to department events. They're easier to start conversations. And even if they don't know if you're a good fit, they might have a colleague that they could direct you to. What's the weirdest lab or group tradition? I work as a computational scientist primarily, so a lot of my personal traditions are the same as coders. We like hiding little exploits in our code sometimes. I did a reel on my code's name coming from Star Trek, actually. Though I also once made a magic 8-ball with Python's rand range function entirely with sarcastic answers. Who do you go to when you're stuck? Professor Google Scholar. That's it. That's the answer. What phrase instantly means you're on your own? I'd say it's you're the expert here. It's a good feeling, obviously, but it's also a lot of responsibility. What meeting made you question reality? When I found out I got to do my first project after defending it to an instructor I'd never met. Unreal, still, to this day. What's the politest way you've said this won't work? If any message starts with per my last email, that's usually what's implied. When did you stop feeling like you were just helping? When I submitted my abstract, I was listed as the primary author. Seeing that made me go, this is my research. I made this. What part of your research boosted your confidence the most? Learning biochemistry on my own without any help. What part tested your confidence the most? Biochemistry without help. What feedback changed how you approach problems? One of my instructors assigned us an in-class problem to research a topic of interest to us. In my case, I wanted to study how climate change may impact me as an astrobiologist. See, I look at the Arctic and Antarctic a lot. My ideas were far too grandiose at first, and during the middle of class, I got reality checked. Did it sting? Of course it did. However, had they not said anything, I wouldn't have made enough progress to defend it as the proposal it would become later in the semester. What's something research made you weirdly good at? Rapid fire Q&A. You really learned to keep your cool. What's the most validating thing someone said about your work? You're an undergrad? I thought you were a grad student. Seriously, hearing that from a PhD made me giggle like a little kid when I got back to my hotel room at the GSA conference. What's something that now you appreciate that you didn't really before? I already appreciate and love my grad student colleagues, but oh my gosh, you all work your butts off defending your thesis, and after having to do the same, I envy your mental fortitude. Keep up the good work. You got this. Code, experiments, or theory? Computational scientist here, we do all three, just like every other branch of science. I kinda can't choose. I love them all. What's the biggest red flag in a research opportunity? Only accepting undergrads from a single discipline despite them having relevant prior experience. Don't choose to work in a lab where your input won't be valued. Have you ever confidently explained something in a meeting and then thought, wow, I sound like a real scientist right now? Oh yes. Yes, yes, yes. I used to hate math as a kid, but when I went through Cal 1 and started branching into the more applied branches of it, I fell in love with it. So when I got to a conference and presented a code that mathematically represents a biological process, and they liked it, I started thinking, I'm a real scientist. I'm not just a student of my instructors, I'm their fellow researcher. What's a question your research raised that your coursework absolutely did not prepare you for? How to calculate the efficiency of a photocatalyst. In plain English, that's how well light speeds up a reaction. I take geology courses, so diving into those kinds of things was a huge test of faith. Have you ever stared at your data and thought, this is either groundbreaking or I've misunderstood everything? That was exactly what happened after I saw the results for how well my program ran. I was working on a way to mathematically bypass the limit on our satellites to give them the ability to calculate minute acids. When I saw the p-value at 0.48 despite the field data gaps, I ran around my house like a frantic chicken. I realized I may have fixed a major hole and could help a whole lot of people. Have you ever nodded thoughtfully during a conference event while thinking, I fundamentally disagree with everything you just said? Oh yeah, Somebody had asked me if I'd tested my model against field data when I already mentioned 5 times that it was trained on it to begin with. Would you recommend undergrad research? And would you do it again? Yes, obviously. It's not easy, but it is very, very rewarding. And honestly, it's probably one of the most fun parts of the sciences. So if you get the chance, definitely take it. It will change your life forever. I hope I was able to provide some insights on my student research experience, and if I made you giggle a little bit too, even better. As always, if you have a question or a video idea, feel free to shoot me a message in the comments or email me at elianamore.2030@gmail.com. The links to my Instagram and my other pages are in my bio, so feel free to stay in orbit around there too. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Until next time, happy holidays from my family to yours. Stay curious. Saraba!